I was recently renovated from my home of 8 years. Renoviction, for anybody who's lucky enough not to know what it is when a landlord says they're going to renovate the place, but really they want to do it so that they can evict the tenant and put the rent up. And so that happened to me. And the thing about getting evicted from a house is that it's not your decision at all, you know, so it's very disempowering. And obviously, having been living in my home for 8 years, I was really, really attached to it. I had a lot of very nice memories built up in it, so it was a bit devastating. It was a real feeling of like upheaval and being uprooted out of my life. So on the last night that I was in my house, I was on my own. And I was doing this kind of silly thing where I'd taken a bit of lavender from the front garden and I'd gone around all the rooms, saying goodbye to the rooms and saying goodbye to all the memories and stuff that I'd had in them, just to kind of close the chapter or whatever. And a bit weird, I know, but sure, look. And so I came out into the front garden, and it's this lovely front garden, and I just kind of thought, this garden, Jesus. Because when I first moved into the house, I was working in the Simon community, and I was working in a community garden part of it, because gardening was supposed to be quite therapeutic, and particularly for people in addiction and stuff. And it was like, you could see a lot of them would come in and they would be visibly better having done it. And some of them would just come in and have a can of fag and then be off, you know, But actually, I was also finding that I was getting a lot out of it. You know, I was actually finding it very therapeutic. So when I moved into the house, I started to, it was this big garden, and I was like, oh my God, I can get flowers over here, and I'll have vegetables over there, and rainbows flying out of it and stuff, you know. Plans that never really happened, but sure. I spent a lot of time in there in the first year, and I planted that lavender plant, and I had a little helper, actually, this little kid called Sarah, who lived like a couple of doors down. She was a really cute, like maybe 7-year-old kid. And the first time I met her, she kind of popped her head around the gate, and she had this lovely long red hair, right? So you'd kind of see the hair coming around before you'd even see Sarah. And she was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, hi, hey, I'm just planting this lavender here. And she's like, oh yeah, can I help? And I was like, yeah, come on in. And so she came in anyway, and I was like, oh, tell her about the lavender. Like, lavender helps you sleep, and different things like that. And she's like, oh yeah, it smells lovely as well. And I was like, yeah, this kid's cute, she's really nice. So we became kind of really good friends, actually, me and the 7-year-old child. But she used to run around as well with the other kids in the estate. Like, there were loads of kids living on the estate, and she used to run around with them as well, and they were absolutely mad. Like, I came home one night during my first year there, and they had kind of occupied the entire street. And by that I mean, like, they had kind of split up into warring factions, and they were like standing on the roofs of the cars and like rolling down windscreens and underneath cars and like shooting the people walking by and stuff. It was like, they were gas kids. And a couple of years ago as well, during Forbidden Fruit on in Kilmainham, all the kind of hipsters in the land descend on Kilmainham with their sunglasses and their moustaches and face paint and stuff, and drugs. And one of the little kids in my estate managed to commandeer a megaphone for himself. And he was running up and down James's Street going, I've got loads of ketamine. And I was walking by, I was like, do you know, he probably does, very ingenious, like. But anyway, so Sarah was kind of, she used to hang around with them as well, but she was a really really nice, cute kid, and she was always kind of looking after, she had 2 little brothers, and she often brought them around, and they'd be helping out as well, but she was often minding them, and they'd be out until all hours, like, and the little lad was only 2. The little lad actually gave me the finger once, which was hilarious, but she was always looking after them, and we, the 4 of us actually planted sunflowers together as well that summer. And I remember one night I was covering up the sunflowers because it was getting cold, and she popped her head around in her little, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just covering up these sunflowers here, because they're probably going to get cold or whatever. And she came in and she put her hands around the flower pots, and she was like, oh yeah, they're freezing. And then she like immediately got to work helping me cover them up and stuff. So she was just gorgeous. So on my last night in the house, when I came out into the garden and I saw the lavender and stuff, and I brought it around and everything, but I just got to thinking of her, you know, and I decided not to bring the lavender with me because, well, it had been there for 8 years and it had put down roots, and this is obviously a nice metaphor for the whole story, but I wasn't gonna I wasn't gonna bring it with me because it wouldn't survive the move. So I decided to make up little bags of it for myself and like my housemate and Aoife, my grown-up friend from across the road, and the other one next door and stuff. And all this is happening, you know, in the context of, you know, me having no decision. But I did actually have a decision, you know, because my parents, as soon as I got evicted or got the notice of eviction, had said to me immediately, you know, Sinead, you can come home here whenever you want and for as long as you want. And they only live in Naas, and they're two extremely lovely people. And they're in the audience, so I obviously can't say anything else apart from that. But yeah, I had a decision, you know, and the decision that I had was to move home, and I was feeling like, God, I'm so lucky actually to have that, because so many people don't, you know, they don't have that option. And I was thinking about that in the context of, you know, making these bags of lavender for people, and wishing that I could give a little bag to Sarah because she helped me plant it, you know. But I couldn't, because the last time that I saw Sarah, she came running into the garden and she was like, guess what? I was like, oh, what's going on? And she was like, we're moving out. And I was like, inside, you know, I was like, oh my God, no, she can't move out. Like, I know she's only 7, but she's my friend. But you can't say to a 7-year-old child, like, I won't be able to go on without you. So I was like, outwardly, I was like, oh, that's amazing, brilliant. Where are you moving to? And she said, with all the joy in the world, we're moving into a hotel. That's the last time I saw her.